right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Cancer Support Communities Cooking for Wellness. Today's class is sponsored by Central Ohio Urology Group. Due to our current events, we are not at Central Ohio Urology today, but we are here on Zoom virtual. But the recipes that you may have seen published at Coog are what we're going to be talking about today. So we're talking about summer abundance and using all the fun ingredients that are coming into season right now. And so today we're with our mighty chef, Jason Johnson, and our dietitian, Lori Coleman. And so welcome, you guys. Excited to see what you got to bring to us today.
Welcome, 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 everyone. We're glad for you to join us again. And even though we are not at our usual location again, it's still good to be able to see everyone and to see you safe and still moving forward in your journeys of wellness. We want to continue to do that as we move into summer. We want to be able to continue to support you on your journey of wellness through these three recipes that we're going to have tonight. Really great, fresh ingredients. Summer bounty is what I call it. So these really nice ingredients and dishes that'll be easy to do right at home and to wow some of your family and friends. And as we still continue to do social distancing or smaller crowds, you may just have a few people over, and this is something that you can still put together for that small crowd at your house or just your family that's there. So we'll be able to give you some great information and some great inspiration in the midst of all of this. All right. We'll start with the first dish, which a lot of people may or may not be familiar with, but a gazpacho. And so we're going to do a cucumber gazpacho. It's kind of one of the common gazpachos. And gazpacho is nothing more than a Spanish, Portuguese type of soup. It's a cold soup. So I'm one of them people. I don't know about you. I rarely eat soup or chilies in the summertime. Seems like there's no point. But those who like that, here's an alternative to if you're a soup lover. It's a cold soup. Another one is a vichyssoise. There's a borscht, which is made of beets. So there's other cold soups out there, but this is one that you can get some really nice, refreshing flavors in it, and some good nutrients to let us know about, especially this one that has cucumbers. So if I'm not mistaken, because Lori, last week we were talking about cucumbers and all of the nutrients that cucumbers hold. It actually kind of surprised me, all that cucumbers, and they've been getting a bad rap all this time, I guess.
Yeah, I hear that. I hear people say, well, there's no point in eating iceberg lettuce or celery or cucumbers. They're negative impact, that kind of thing, or negative calorie, negative energy. But they're actually super, super hydrating, and they do balance electrolytes. What's kind of nice about cucumbers, 11 ounces. So that's a pretty large cucumber. Gives you 45 calories. So
wow.
I love that. And then like in that 45 calories, there's about 62% of the RDA or the RDI for vitamin K. So when you think about bone health, it's a really good source for that nutrient. When we say that it's, water dense, it's actually 96% fluid. So with the mineral salts included in that 96% water, you're doing a lot of good in regards to keeping your body balanced, hydrated and balanced.
See, so, those who like to keep up their water intake especially during the summer and the hot weather and things like that, if you don't have a bottle of water handy, but you have some cucumbers, there you go. So it's always good to know about ways that you can continue to hydrate yourself, especially during hot temperature and these summer months. There's more than ways than just carrying around a bottle of water. And so this is one of those ways too. It'll be delicious. It'll be great. And then using I love seafood. So like pairing this with some shrimp, and you don't have to pair it with anything, but it's what we call a great garnish. But the star of the show will be the gazpacho, and the shrimp is not going to play the star in this dish. A lot of times you see a lot of dish, especially seafood dish, it's the actual seafood, in this case shrimp, and then everything else. But in this case, the shrimp is going to act as the garnish to the soup. And so all we're doing is we got our pan here that we're going to heat with a little bit of olive oil, and with that, we've seasoned our shrimp, and you can get as small or large shrimp as you want. I just have some medium, what we call 1620 peeled raw shrimp. If you want some large ones, and depending on how you do it, I like doing private events or small events. And so once we make this, you can do this in several ways. You could serve it to your family members or your guests in just a bowl, and then add the shrimp on top as the garnish. You can put them in little shooter cups, and so it'd be a cute little what I call appetizer, first course kind of thing. If you're doing like a small event, so you can put them in shooter cups, and then you can have the shrimp kind of just right there on top. So there's several ways that you could definitely present this. To me, presentation is always key, but you want to show off everything. So depending on how you're going to present it, maybe how you want to, what size shrimp you want to get. So there's no these are just what I call medium shrimp. You can get large shrimp if you like. So we've seasoned these with a little bit of cumin and some of my favorite seasoning. Everybody out there knows what that is. Some smoked paprika, a little bit of salt and pepper, just to give some flavor even to our garnish. And we're just going to get one thing about shrimp, the good thing about it, especially in the summertime, you could even throw these on the grill. So you don't have to do this in a pan. It's summer. You got that grill fired up. This will be a good opener to your barbecue or your backyard event. You just throw these on there real quick, or throw them on a skewer and put them on the grill real quick. They take no time at all. I think the biggest thing when it comes to cooking shrimp is I don't know how long they should be on there, and if they're cooked. When the shrimp go, and especially if you have raw shrimp, when they go from what we call a opaque or like a clear translucent to they start to turn pink, it literally only takes about a minute or two on each side. A minute or two, then flip it over, get on that side, and you'll start seeing it turn pink on each side. If you cook them too long, then they're going to get chewy and tough. You don't want that to happen.
No.
So while those are kind of going, we also have some cherry tomatoes. The summertime is summer. They're a summer ingredient, so really great during this time. Visit some of your farmers markets or so, and get some nice heirloom tomatoes, cherry tomatoes. And we've just quartered those. If you just have a regular vine ripened tomato, you can just dice it up. So it doesn't have to be, if you don't have any cherry tomatoes, you can take a nice vine ripe, dice it up really nice, and it can still go for this, what we call this relish. And so our shrimp, like I said, takes no time at all. They started to turn. I'm gonna flip them all over. And while this is happening, because literally as soon as these are done, and I'm going to turn them down just a tad, we flip them over. We're going to get started on the actual gazpacho. So like Lori, we got cucumbers, we have tomatoes, we have all these, even down to the seasonings. We have lime, all these type of things going into this dish. I mean,
yeah, I feel like it's very nutritionally dense. I mean, just we already talked about the cucumbers, but the tomatoes are a great source of lycopene, which is a very powerful antioxidant. It is associated with reduced risk of cancer rates. So when you look at people that have a higher intake of lycopene, there is a lower risk of cancer diagnosis. So that's something to consider. I feel like this recipe really lends itself to kind of giving you some flexibility on the flavor that you like. You can use more tomatoes, or you could use more cucumber or more pepper, whatever it is that sounds good to you. And there's, it's a nice way to be kind of just capitalizing on the things that appeal to you.
And you're right. That's the key. And I think that's what, even a gazpacho doesn't even have to be cucumber. Sometimes it's other, what we call vegetables. I've done a watermelon gazpacho. I've done a beet and berry gazpacho before. And so it's just taking some different vegetables or things like that and making what we call a cold soup and really giving some good flavors. So all I'm putting in here, we have some plain Greek yogurt. We have our cucumbers. Have a little bit of broth. You can use some veggie broth. If you don't have any on hand, make a little water, and that's just to help everything to move through your blender. We have some garlic. We have, like I said, we have a little bit of red onion in there, and then we're going to put a little bit of salt and pepper in there, and just make sure all that's in there. And then I squeeze some fresh lime juice in there, because that's going to bring a nice little acidity to that. And then, Lori, if I'm not mistaken, I read something recently that was talking about like the power of lime juice or like citrus. It was talking about lime juice, and it was saying how like first thing in the morning, it's good to have like some lime in your water or something like that, like lime water.
It's very alkalizing, and so if you can just get that going first thing in the morning, it kind of sets you up to be more balanced through the whole day. Lemon or lime. Lime, actually, there's a little more of the key components in the lime. So if you don't mind it, I would go with lime water in the morning.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I do. It was funny because before I even read that, I usually do that when I have water, and I try not to have cold water. Americans, we're used to having ice cold water, but especially like first thing in the morning or before you go to bed, it's best to have warm or room temperature to warm water. And then if you add that citrus in there, it really helps with digestion and cutting a lot of different things out of the body.
Mm-hmm. The lime, if you like a little mint with it, I think it goes well as far as, infusing those flavors in your water, and a little bit of ginger would also be nice.
That seems good. Like it would be good in this gazpacho. Add a little bit of mint to this.
Yeah, it would be good.
All right, so we're gonna give that a whirl. In my shrimp is done. All I did is after the shrimp were cooked, I tossed in my tomatoes. I didn't want to really cook them, but the residual heat from the pan and the shrimp is going to just kind of soften them a little bit, release a little bit of their juices, and then we put in some cilantro. So that's going to all work. In the meantime, we'll get this moving. And I don't know about you, if you've had a gazpacho, like I don't want this to be totally like smooth. You want a little bit of texture to it. If that's not you, then you could kind of make it smooth, but it helps to have just a little bit of texture in there. Whoa. Like I said, it'd be really nice, like if you were entertaining, to have a like little shooter cups. You pour that in your shooter cup, and then you could add your shrimp relish, what we call your shrimp tomato relish, right on top. It's all about presentation.
I think this looks like a dish that would be very refreshing. We know that it's hydrating, yet it's still macronutrient balanced as far as the protein, fat, and carbs. And, depending on whatever yogurt you use, you could do a little more, like a regular yogurt where it's more high fat. And that would probably kind of facilitate a little more satiety. But it is balanced in the way that it is, as well as being gorgeous and looking very appetizing.
And so really quick, really simple, but really refreshing is the name of the game. You know, summertime, you don't want to do a lot of cooking. You don't want to, you know, a lot heating up an oven. So this is something really quick, really refreshing, and fulfilling. I mean, like I said, if you had the grill going, throw a couple of shrimp on there real quick and then toss it in a bowl with these tomatoes and some cilantro. Whip that into your blender real quick, and you can have a really, really nice, like I said, even if it's just what I call an appetizer or something to kind of get everybody going while you're preparing everything else. I think it'd be a really great dish to try. And really easy. I mean, simple ingredients that you can most definitely easily find right at your grocery store. Are there any questions about that particular dish? Are there any gazpacho lovers out there?
I did want to remind everyone too, you can certainly ask a question, unmute yourself and ask a question, or there is the chat function and I can read what your question is and respond to the group if you'd rather do it that way. But that is definitely something that we encourage and want you to do.
I was wondering, can you use sour cream instead of yogurt?
You could use a little sour cream. Like I said, it's going to add, once again, a little bit of the acidity, and it'll add a little bit of creaminess to it. But to cut the fat content, that's why we used, I used Greek yogurt. If you had soy issues and want to go dairy-free, you could definitely use a soy-based yogurt in that. Or like I said, if you don't have any yogurt on hand and you just happen to have some sour cream, I would add just a little bit of it. You don't want, because the key is you don't want this to be heavy. So you want to kind of keep it light. That's the whole point. It's a nice, light, refreshing. So I would only add a dab.
Is that a technical term, a dab?
Technical term, dab.
That's how I do it, but I just wondered.
I'm a gazpacho lover, Jason. It is, I've always liked it, and I like cold soups in general, but
Really?
for gazpacho, I always need a little spice to it. So
A little
I
kick.
like to make it with kick. Yeah.
I can say, and I love soups. I like making soups. I'm not a big gazpacho. Well, I won't say that. The beet berry one I did, don't ask me even how I came up with it. It was for an event, and I don't even know. It was just one of those things like, hey, let's try this. And it just really came out. I think it was a mix of, I don't know if we used raspberries and blueberries or blackberries, and then beets, roasted the beets off, and it just really had a little bit of coriander in it, and a little bit of zest of orange and all those type of things. And it just really, really came out really great. So yeah.
Yeah. I bet it was pretty too.
Yes, I'll show you pictures after this. Yeah, it was. And I think we served it alongside of a pork belly bite and what was it? Mexican street corn and Chipotle pork belly appetizer beside it. So
Sounds good.
So if there are any other ones, we'll move on to the next one, which most people say, we're going into the summer and, a hot cereal. You can also make this like an overnight thing. The whole key is these different elements and these different ingredients that you can move into the summer with and use a lot of the summer produce up in that. So, of course, oats, great source of fiber and protein. So you can still get that in, and maybe, you don't want a hot cereal, but you can do an overnight oat type of development and still have all these type of elements, with the raspberry sauce and the banana and all that kind of stuff. So it still lends you some really great nutritional value.
When I looked at this recipe, I just really liked the concept. You know, I mean, like, you can certainly change it to be whatever flavor you prefer, but the idea is like, you know, it's a base for all of these. It's kind of like the vehicle for all of these really nutrient dense components. So cold or hot, I think everyone will find something to do with this recipe that makes sense to them.
Right. And so I have some almond milk here. Let it warm up a little bit. Then we'll add our oats in, and then we're going to put a little bit of smashed banana. So that's going to give some really nice. And I use a ripe banana because then it's going to bring a little bit of natural sweetness to it. Because if you notice, there are no other, nothing else, no brown sugar in this recipe, or even any honey. Your sweetness is going to come from the banana. Now, if you don't have a ripe banana, you might add a little drizzle of honey to it if you need to add some sweetness to this. But this banana is going to add a level of sweetness to this. Then you get a little tartness from the raspberries, kind of a little tang from the raspberries. So it'll all play off of each other. And if you don't like raspberries, or you prefer, you can switch this out. And that's the good thing about it. I mean, any type of really nice berries, some strawberries, you could do a strawberry blueberry mix. You can do blackberries. So whatever in there, because berries overall, I don't think there's too much difference, but Lori, like most berries, you're going to get pretty much the same nutritional value, right?
So why they get recommended so much when we're thinking about being health conscious is they're very low glycemic index. So you get a ton of nutrients, you get their sweet flavor, and you don't get a lot of volatility in your glucose and insulin ratios. And that's very desirable. That's what we're looking for. I believe it probably has to do with 1 cup only having 64 calories, but the clincher is there's 8 grams of fiber. So that's unusually high for 1 cup of fruit. Another plus is there's 54% of RDI for vitamin C, which is good. I mean, it's not bad, but it's not like there are some that are more than 100%. So I feel like the redeeming quality on this particular berry, which would be, it could be red raspberries, black raspberries, purple raspberries, or even the golden, they're all really high in fiber. So very satisfying. They work to kind of stabilize blood sugars. And there is a specific compound to raspberries that is linked to cancer prevention.
Oh.
Yeah.
And is that just with raspberries, not any other berries?
No, all berries, but it's higher in raspberries.
Wow.
So just a little bit, but it is the top of the standard. So that's why I think it's, like I said, raspberries would be great in this recipe. Blueberries are great too. Whatever you like, whatever's going to make you eat it. But if you like whatever sounds good, that's always the key.
That's the key.
is that you have to think it sounds good. So kind of experiment with your different kinds of raspberries, and then you could move into either, like you said, blueberries, berries, something like that, or blackberries.
So we're stirring that up. These are whole grain oats. So whatever type of oats, really nice whole grain oats will go good with that. So we're going to stir that up, let that kind of cook through. And what I've done is taken my banana, and we've mashed it up, and then we'll add that in after this is pretty much thickened up and the oats have cooked. We'll add in our banana. We'll turn the heat off of this, add in the banana. In the meantime, we'll take our raspberries. We add a little bit of water to this, and I like to add like just a tad bit of like lemon or lime zest, because that adds another level of like what I call flavor, and it helps to bring out a lot of the natural flavor profile of berries. So I got a little bit of lime juice in there. We'll just warm that quickly, and literally, and you don't have to do that too, but it's almost going to create like a sauce per se. It's almost going to create like a berry sauce that will go with this.
Which I feel like if you're kind of like opposed to berries, like if you don't love eating them, creating the sauce and having the citrus on board to kind of enhance the sweetness, the flavors, I feel like that could make it so you're more apt to include this more regularly.
FYI, I went to Time Market yesterday. They are on sale on raspberry and blackberry, 77 cents a package.
Right? That's
Wow.
awesome. Good news.
Only this week, only this week.
Okay, that's a deal.
Yeah, mangoes are 2 for 1 and avocado is 2 for 1.
Okay.
So I bought a whole bunch and freeze the blackberry and raspberry.
There you go.
I got to go get my avocado so that I can make my avocado ice cream.
I think that raspberries are very versatile. Like I love this recipe, but I think they're a nice vehicle for like maybe a dark chocolate chip if you're looking for a very small after dinner sweetness to kind of
Yes.
take care of that craving. They go well in oats and yogurt. They are a great addition to smoothies, and I like them sprinkled on top of a salad. So, you know, where you might do like a dried cranberry in the winter or a raisin, you can substitute in a fresh raspberry when they're in season and kind of have a nice change.
Right, and I think that's the good thing about raspberries. They are very versatile, and they play in a lot of different ways. So, most definitely, I actually prefer a raspberry over a blueberry.
Yeah, me too.
I like raspberries, but I don't like the seeds. And I wondered if Jason has some ideas on how to get the seeds out.
Well, the seeds, because they're small, the only not whole. I wouldn't know whole wise because I understand what you're saying, but they are also very small. So I really don't know.
Okay, I wondered if the sauce, if there's a way to strain it or something.
You can strain it, but if well, you can't see it from here. Like I've just microwaved these. You know, all I did was put a little bit of citrus, no other sugars or anything like that. So they're going to kind of break down just a little. But then you also want, because your oatmeal is a certain consistency, you kind of want to keep a little bit of the texture of some of the raspberries. So it's not like fully cooked down and then strain it. Now, if that's what you want to do, but I also feel like, you know, some of the texture from some of those whole raspberries that have not broken down will also lend to the overall goodness of the dish. But you could definitely strain this. You could, if you didn't want to do it in a microwave, you can put it in a small pot and just let those raspberries kind of cook down until they start to, oh my goodness, I can't think of the word, until they start to reduce. And once they reduce, it starts to thicken and really becomes a nice sauce. And then you can strain it, strain out all the seeds and the pulp, and you literally would just have a sauce. So that's cooked, and now we're going to add our banana puree. And I've turned off the heat to my, because the one thing about oats is, I remember I worked at OSU at the hospital, and if you only knew how much oatmeal we had to prepare daily for the hospital cafeteria. And you would have this big stock pot on the stove for these, and you'd heat your water, and then literally once it was heated and boiling, you just turned it off and dumped in your oats, and 5 to 7 minutes later, you had overflowing oatmeal. So it doesn't take much. You don't need to keep the heat on. So I folded in my bananas, and then I have some almond butter. And once again, if you don't have if you have nut allergies or so, you could skip this part.
Or you could substitute sunflower butter.
Sunflower butter,
Mm-hmm.
sun butter.
Sunflower seed butter.
And you could do that, or if you don't have an issue, some good old natural peanut butter.
Mhm.
And the residual heat, that's going to really allow that, well, in this case, almond butter to kind of melt. So you have the peanut butter, you have the bananas, and I'm already getting like, yum. And I'm the one sitting here smelling this. So really nice texture, bananas, peanut butter, and then we'll add this in there. I have a little bit of cinnamon. If you want to add a little bit of nutmeg to yours, that's great. You know what you was mentioning, Lori, you know what could be done too?
What?
If you had some dark cocoa powder
Mm-hmm.
and add this to this,
Right.
kids would love it.
Right. They would think they were having.
Almost be like a chunky monkey oatmeal.
Yeah. Or brownie batter. That's what my kids would want it to taste like. They would
So
be like, a
little
little more sugar and a little more chocolate, please.
a little bit of cinnamon, because you got the bananas and you would have the peanut butter or the almond butter, a little bit of dark chocolate cocoa powder, and then you add these raspberries on there. I mean,
Sounds good. Very good. That's definitely something you could experiment with. That's what I said. I felt like it was just kind of creating a vehicle for a number of different things that would be good for you.
so we got our oatmeal, our banana, almond butter, oatmeal, and then we just add some of this wonderful, what I call raspberry sauce, coulis, to the top. And then if you had some toasted almonds, and I didn't today, but some toasted almonds just right on top to just add some crunch to this and some texture. You hear me say this a lot of times, texture, because honestly, umami and the way we're not used to it in our culture a whole lot is that a lot of like Thai, let's take Thai food, for instance. You can have, say, pad Thai, has a lot of different type of ingredients and textures. It has peanuts in there for a crunch. It has spiciness. It has a little bit of sourness. It has a little bit of bitterness, because a lot of other cultures are used to what we call this umami effect, where they're able to allow their tongues and their palates to be able to translate all of those different types of things, and it all come together and equate to deliciousness. And so you'll hear me a lot of times talk about texture, because food to me and taste is not just predicated on it just tastes good. Sometimes it's a combination. It's almost a chemistry that works hand in hand from when you visually see it, that starts the salivatory glands to go. It sends a signal to the brain that causes the salivatory to say, ooh, that looks good. And it's probably, and then the smell, your senses of smell takes that in, and it translates something to your brain. And then when you take that taste, that first bite, it also is not just the actual taste of the individual ingredients, but sometimes it's different textures and translating those different textures. So sometimes, you'll say, if you got a dish that's kind of creamy or so, sometimes you want something that has a little crunch to it that kind of breaks up that monotony and helps your palate to really be able to take it all in. So I know that was free. That was just a little extra. So that's our banana, raspberry, almond porridge. We'll say oats.
I call it luxury oatmeal.
Yeah, the word porridge, it just sometimes has a negative connotation. So, but that's, like I said, really simple, real easy, and you could do this overnight. So you could take those same oats and do them overnight in the almond milk, and add in your banana, and then the next day you can just add your raspberry sauce, let it cool down or so, and still be able to have a really great thing. And it doesn't have to be hot. Any questions pertaining to our oat?
Do you use the instant oat or you use the steel oat?
Now, you could use any oats. Steel cut oats take longer to cook. They will take a lot longer for you to cook. These were not instant. These were it takes about, I think, 5 to 7 minutes. So they weren't instant oats. Any other questions?
I feel like
Let me take this time for those who are in here from that normally come to Coug, just so everyone can rest assured. Commercial break is, I finally went to Skyline. For those who tease me about Skyline, I finally got to go and try it.
Did you like it?
I'll say I finally went to go.
Okay, so that's a no.
And I tried it.
And you,
So I kept my word.
you didn't like it.
And I tried it.
To each his own. You don't have to like it. We just needed you to have the experience.
I had the experience. Yeah.
It's different. It really is.
We'll say I had the experience.
I'm with you, Jason. Solidarity.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's good.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it was bad. It just, as my grandmother would say, I just didn't care for it.
It's a different taste, for sure.
It was different. I will say that. Like I said, I don't have a problem with different, but it just was like, oh, okay, interesting.
What did you have?
I just had 2 chili dogs.
Okay.
And well, I won't even say 2. I only ordered 1. Now, my son, on the other hand, he thinks that they're the greatest, but there's not too much that he doesn't. But yeah, I said, let me just get 1 to say that I tried before I got a whole pack or so. And it wasn't, like I say, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't like, I wouldn't go across town to get it.
Anne is suggesting, Jason, that you try a 5-way next time you go.
A 5-way.
5-way, yeah.
Wow.
So that's got, Anne, you'll have to maybe help me with that. With this, I think it's like spaghetti, the chili, cheese, onions, and mustard. Is that? No, I can't. I'm not sure.
I think what it is because it has, if I'm not mistaken, Skyline is like what we call a Cincinnati style, and it has like a cinnamon notes to it, and I think that's what kind of threw me off.
Okay.
You know, as a chef, my palate was just like, whoa, wait, what's going on here? It had a sweetness to it, and that cinnamon undertone just kind of really threw me off.
Yeah, it's a warm. And I mean, I think in a lot of people's minds, it's just a warm, sweet tone.
I remember doing a chili cook-off before, and I had to do quite a few testing of quite a few chilies. And it was new to me that people make sweet chili, and it just, I'm not a fan of adding sugar or sweetness to a chili. I want it to be smoky and maybe a little bit of heat to it, and just some nice, when I think of chili, I think of it bold. And when you put sugar in it, I'm just like, ah.
It reminds you of like a mole sauce, kind of? Did it remind you? Yeah. I think that is, so there's a cocoa powder in it too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Anne said that too. And then that last ingredient that I didn't know, Jason, is the bean mixture that they use.
Wow.
That's what completes it as a 5-way.
Okay. Well, we'll see.
How do you know?
So our next dish, really great, and I think it's really worth trying, especially here in the summertime. And if you have some shrimp on hand, like you made that gazpacho, this dish actually would be really great with some shrimp or a really nice salmon or whitefish, nice lean whitefish. I think it would be really great to top it with. Because of we have the papaya and the pineapple in it, so it's going to have a little bit of a lot of different flavors to it. But I think with the refreshingness that's going to come from those, and a little bit of sweetness is going to come from that. You put a nice seafood like some shrimp or, like I said, a salmon or a nice piece of whitefish on there. I think it'll really blend out really great. So we'll start with most, and it's a fried rice per se. We're going to start with our onions. And that's what I like about Thai food and a lot of Asian foods. It's just really layering a lot of different, like I was mentioning, to really bring you notice in a lot of Asian cuisine, they have like a lot of, you have your garlic and you have ginger and you'll have some type of spice, and then you'll have the flavors from the sesame oil and then the saltiness from the soy. So all of those things kind of come in together and, it becomes delicious. So that's one reason why I really appreciate a lot of Asian dishes in that regard. And then especially Thai. So here we're gonna have our onions, and then we have a little bit of garlic we'll mince up, and then some ginger and peppers and all that kind of stuff to build. And once again, it's your Bob Ross world. You can do what you like. We're just giving you a small blueprint on how this dish could go. You can change it and, to add or take away whatever ingredients that you don't like. I always they'll say, try it the way that the recipe says first, so you can at least have an understanding of what the nature of the dish is or what it's supposed to be, and then tweak it from there. If you tweak it from the beginning, then you'll kind of really not have a point of reference on how is the dish supposed to be. First, try it the way it's supposed to be, and then say, you know what, I don't like, because some things in our minds will say, well, I don't know about pineapples and papaya in my fried rice. I'm going to leave that out. But try it, make it the first time with them in there so you can at least see what it's supposed to taste like. What is it like with all these ingredients together? Because maybe separately or by themselves, you're not a fan. But once you maybe add it with some of these other flavors and build these flavor profiles, then you're like, well, wait a minute, that's not as bad as I thought. So try it that way. And then if you don't like it, then you can say, you know what, next time I'm going to leave that particular thing out. So we got onions, garlic. We're just letting those saute. Then a little bit of ginger in my life. And then we're going to add our turmeric, because we want to bloom the turmeric. And the way we're going to bloom the turmeric so that it's going to become fragrant, and it's going to, in a sense, color everything. It's going to give that nice, like, yellow, golden, yellowish color to the dish. We got some peppers and onions in there. Now we'll add our turmeric. And Lori, the one thing about, a lot of people are really, coming on turmeric, not just to add in their food. And, everybody's used to hearing about turmeric in a lot of Indian foods, but you're also starting to see it outside of Indian food. You see people put it in their smoothies. You see people put it in, other dishes. I know I actually take a vitamin, a turmeric vitamin every morning. You can put it in your, a teaspoon in your tea, or so like that. And so the properties of turmeric, and even just adding it in, even though it's a Thai dish, we're adding turmeric to it.
Right. The curcuminoids are associated with a lot of anti-inflammatory action. So there's a lot of things that stand to benefit from having those curcuminoids on board every single day. I've had clients that weren't exercising because of joint pain, and then they start a curcumin supplement like you're describing, or turmeric, but the curcumin is what I've had it described to me like the apple tree and the apple. So
Gotcha.
You get the more concentrated source, so you get that supplement on board, and then they start exercising. It's that powerful of an anti-inflammatory.
And I've noticed that, because even as a chef and on my feet and stuff like that, now my knees or my back do not hurt as much. Like if I'm going up and down stairs, I noticed it one day a couple of weeks ago. I was like, hey, I walked up and down those stairs and didn't hey, I feel a little bit more flexible these days. So it definitely helps, you know, along with a couple other things that I've been making sure that I've implemented in my diet, but it definitely helps.
That's great. So well, I'll let you go. I started to talk about papaya, which is kind of like, do you feel like that's the star of this dish? Pineapple?
I do, because it probably is the ingredient less, how do you put this, that you would least expect.
Right.
So in that sense, I would think it's the star, because like I said, you at least expect to have papaya in. And then, if I'll be honest, a lot of people don't handle papaya. If you can't see on the camera, I made sure that I kept this half of it, but this is a papaya opened up.
Mm-hmm.
And you see all those nice black seeds in there. You can scoop those out. I mean, really easy, almost like if you're any type of melon. So like a cantaloupe or honeydew, you split it open, you scoop out the, keep those seeds. Now, one thing I did, because as I was prepping this, my daughter was like, she got enamored by seeing the seeds. And so she took them all. And then we researched that, to be honest, because I was like, oh, we can go ahead and put these out there in my little garden that I started. And the seeds, though, it said to just dry them out. And these little black, what I call avrils, they look like black seeds, but the seed is actually in this little black pockets. So there's a little smaller seed inside what you think is a seed. But then it said dry them out and don't plant them until December.
Right, you got to be patient.
I was like, oh, so they're a cold. I thought they were a hot weather, hot climate type of fruit.
That I'm not sure about. I can't speak to that. I do know a little bit about what they bring, though, if you're going to put them in your fried rice. So one small papaya, this is awesome, is 59 calories.
Wow.
I know, 3 grams of fiber and 157% of the RDI for vitamin C. So that's pretty cool. It's packed with lycopene, actually higher than tomatoes, which we already talked about, that particular phytonutrient being connected to reduced cancer rates. It's also high. Another unique quality to papaya is the papain. So it's an enzyme that breaks down tough proteins. So you are a person that has some pancreatic insufficiencies, which, you know, that shows up as a lack of digestive capacity. The papaya is a great thing to include in your diet. So is pineapple. They both have really unique properties in that regard to aid digestion. So the pineapple has bromelain. That actually is a set of digestive enzymes that can help. So if you're battling any kind of like IBS symptoms, papaya and pineapple is where I would start. In addition to those real specific enzymes that they give, there's a ton of anti-inflammatory antioxidants. So they test, people that are regularly eating papaya, and their CRP, which is an inflammatory marker, C-reactive protein, is lower. So that's research-based. That's good stuff. That gives us like good hard information that it can really be instrumental in bringing down inflammation if it's included regularly. Yeah.
Now, I will say papaya, it didn't have much of a taste.
Right. It's pretty benign. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And I also read today, which I didn't know this about it, that if it's unripe, it's high in latex, like a naturally occurring latex.
Huh.
Yeah. So you should cook it. You shouldn't eat unripe raw papaya. So cooking it is what you need to do if you don't feel like it's actually ripe.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You know, in the Philippines, we use unripe papaya if we are stewing meat, chicken, or fish.
Yeah.
Instead of potato or sweet potato. We use it like a chayote. You know chayote, right? Chayote is like green squash.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Coyote? Yeah.
Yeah, so we use it like similar to how we use chayote. And when it's ripe, of course, it's a fruit to us. And we chop it, dice it, and put little sugar and lemon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. I think papayas is probably as versatile as the raspberries when you think about it. Like having it in the morning, maybe as a breakfast food with some yogurt. I see mango or papaya salsa all the time.
Yeah. I've made a tropical, what I call salsa with mango, pineapple, and papaya
Yeah. So
over a
that,
mahi fish.
right? That sounds delicious. If you want to get it frozen and add it to your smoothies, that's a nice,
Yes.
easy way to do it. Adding it to a
We
salad.
had that the other day, a smoothie. It was I don't remember where I got it, the mixture, but it was a frozen blend of papaya, pineapple. Actually had bananas. It was a blend of frozen bananas, papaya, pineapple, and it might have been mango in there. And then I threw it in the blender with some fresh strawberries, and it was really good.
That does sound good.
Jason,
Yes.
I just looked up some information on the papaya, and it says that papaya seeds are edible, so it's
Yeah.
perfectly okay to eat them, and that they have a texture and a slightly peppery flavor.
Huh.
I
And it
think they're
says-
slightly peppery, personally. Pretty bitter, but depends on what you're looking for. We do have a question, Jason. Anne wonders how much turmeric you'd put in a cup of tea.
Probably like a half a teaspoon. Well, like a regular cup of tea, like because you don't want the turmeric to overpower the tea, but it's like a half a teaspoon to, like if you got a large cup, like a teaspoon or to half a teaspoon of turmeric,
Okay.
just enough. Like my aunt, I mean my mom and my stepdad, they actually have like a half a teaspoon every morning also. It's that turmeric doesn't have like a strong flavor per se, but of course you don't want to have yellow tea, or maybe you do. But yeah, just a little goes a long way.
Okay, so we have one more question about the season of papaya. And the answer that I see is papayas are always in season because their life and cultivation cycle is not an annual one. So yeah, grown commercially.
So that's why it's important. Like I said, and I don't know what site that was. Like I said, I was prepping while, so I was just like interesting to find out. It's like because most of the time you hear papaya comes from like Guatemala or something like that. So
Well,
I'm like,
they're planted in orchards and they take about 9 months to mature enough to produce fruit.
wow.
Yeah, so they can usually be economically harvested for another 20 to 30 months before the plant will die.
Wow.
I know, it's interesting.
Everybody go out and buy papaya. And then plant the seeds. See, I'm going to put mine in my backyard and let them keep coming up.
Okay,
So
Paula is asking, she said she doesn't have the recipe printed and she wants to know what you added after the turmeric to the dish.
So we added, after the turmeric, we added, let's see, we had our vegetables. So the onions, the garlic, the ginger, and then we added in the peppers and red peppers and peas and a little bit of thyme and some sesame oil and the rice, and then and we folded in the papaya and the pineapple.
Okay, thank you.
And now the recipe does call for coconut aminos, and maybe you could talk a little bit on this. I will admit that I'm not as familiar with coconut aminos, and I literally could not find any at Giant Eagle. And I know it's probably the substitute for the soy sauce.
Right, which, you know, I don't know that there's any reason for those to be preferable.
Right.
So soy would be just fine. It is, a coconut amino is a way to go gluten-free if you're looking for that same like kind of flavor.
You could use a good tamari if that was the case.
Exactly. All of them I feel like are interchangeable.
Yeah. And so I used some reduced sodium soy sauce. If you are gluten sensitive, you can use tamari. It is a soy-free, gluten-free, I should say, sauce. And so we just added a little bit of that at the end, and the sesame oil, just like you would a fried rice. We folded all that together, and voila.
And that green onion is the star of the show. I like that.
And then that's our papaya pineapple Thai fried rice. Now, for it to really be Thai, you got to have some sriracha squirted across the to give some nice little spice to it, or some nice red pepper flakes in there to just add a little spice to that. So yeah, I would probably some sriracha right across the top of that and go for it.
Looks good.
Any other questions about tonight's recipes? Like I said, very simple, very easy, quick, and really great additions to a summer menu, whether it's just, you and your immediate family that's at home, even while we're still, kind of going through COVID, and you're still just at home, you can still have some really great dishes right at home that are simple, great fresh summer ingredients. And that's the key. I always say, if you can, or if you feel comfortable, go to the grocery store. And I always say this, hang out a little bit in the produce section, because at different seasons, so that you're able to see, in a sense, the change of seasonal produce. There's some items you're not going to see a lot. If you walk into Giant Eagle right now, there's some things that maybe 2 months ago you saw that you walk in there now in the produce section you won't see, because they're out of season. Because you have to make way for now in the summer, those summer produce things. And so that's what we call the summer bounty. You want to be able to use, seasonal produce is going to give you great nutrients, going to give you great flavor and taste, because they're at their peak. And you're going to have good cost also, because they are in season. So you want to be able to see what are some great seasonal ingredients. And these are some of those wonderful things that you can definitely utilize, that are cost effective, that are going to be delicious, and that are easy recipes to be able to include into your food repertoire.
Can we alternate pasta instead of rice?
Yes, I mean, you could definitely do a pasta, nice pasta surrounding the same ideas. I'm thinking right offhand, like a teriyaki chicken or so with the pasta, and still these pineapple and papaya and things like that. So yeah, you can definitely do that. Like I said, it's your Bob Ross world, so you can do whatever you like. And in your world, maybe it's pasta and not rice. And I might have mentioned, if you see the recipe, if you're not looking at the recipe, it is a brown rice.
Yeah.
And if you want to totally do like gluten-free, do some cauliflower rice.
Mm-hmm. All great ideas.
Any other questions pertaining to any of the recipes that we have done this evening?
Jason,
Yes.
I like your knife. Where did you get it? What kind is it? Like,
It is a Japanese knife, because I'm a spoiled brat, and I have been wanting one for some time, and I treated myself about a year ago. And you asked me where, and the funny thing is, I cannot remember where I got it from. I did not order this one, actually. I actually found it in a store, and I can't remember what store it was. But I was excited when I found it, because actually I was more excited because these Japanese knives are normally close to $100 or more. There is one I actually have. I'm putting it out there. Anybody want to be a blessing to me? I have one in my Amazon cart right now that is about $125. And it is a beautiful, beautiful Japanese knife. It's not quite like this. It's a 8-inch chef knife that is beautiful. And they last very long. I don't know, the Japanese, maybe, they know how to make a good knife, probably because they know how to make really great swords. but the craftsmanship is amazing on a lot of Japanese knives, and they last long, and they hold up very well. So yeah, I cannot remember where I got this from, but yeah, I love my knife. I have another knife I got for Christmas from my niece that is still in the box because it's a really nice knife. It's a chef knife too, and it's so it's so pretty that I'm like, I don't want to use it. I don't want to mess it up. So it's just still in its really nice velvet line. It literally came in a box that's velvet lined, and I just took it out the other day just to look at it.
I don't think she gave you that just to keep it in a box.
I agree.
I may pull it out for a special occasion, but I'm like, it's so nice and shiny and new. I didn't want to mess it up.
Well, make sure she's there when you use it, okay?
I probably will.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions, or? We definitely appreciate each and every one tuning in today. We appreciate you still being a part and supporting Cancer Support. And as much as you support us, we hope that you feel the support that we've been able to give you through these classes, whether it's fresh ideas, whether it's helpful tips, whether it's just the camaraderie and to be able to join in with other people who can relate to some of the things that you or your family members have gone through. So we definitely appreciate, and we don't take this lightly. So one day, hopefully soon, that we'll be able to all come together again. But until then, continue to meet us here on Thursdays with more great recipes, and continue to take these and print these recipes off. Try these dishes at home, and then let us know that you've tried these dishes. You know, let us know that you tried it. You liked it, you didn't like it, you tweaked it, because those are all great feedback. And then just to know that we are helping you in some type of way, or if nothing else, for inspiration to bring into your own homes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Lori. So next Wednesday, next Thursday, we actually have two classes
Doubleheader.
next Thursday. Is that right, Lori?
Yes.
Yes.
Doubleheader.
Doubleheader. One at 1 o'clock, which was originally going to be in Delaware at Source Point, but since they are continue to be closed, we are going to do that virtually. So we'll be on at 1 o'clock, and then we'll be on at 6 for our regular Giant Eagle Cooking for Wellness class. So we hope that you'll join us then. We have lots more delicious summer recipes. So lots of great recipes coming up to use the summer bounty and all the fresh fruits and vegetables that are in season right now. So, or will be soon.
Yes.
Yes.
So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, guys. Have a great